Assalamualaikum and a very good morning or good evening to Madam ADIBAH and to anyone who's watching this video. Hi, my name is Athirah with Zulkifli Ahmad, and today for my reflection presentation, I'll be sharing you the problems that I faced during my early stage in learning English and how I overcome it. So I can relate very much to the problem that is faced by Daniel for very chosen character. With my very own problems that I faced during the early stage of learning English. So the first problem is lexical errors. So I remember during my early stage learning English that is in the UK. I stayed in the UK for 3 years. I had for my first grammar class, we were required to change the verb into using the correct tenses. At that time, I remember I was confused. I was blank. I don't know what to do. And to make matters worse, at that time I went to the UK. I was in primary one or primary two, so my knowledge in grammar was very basic. So even in my daily communication, the verb that I use in my speech is just the root word itself instead of adding the correct tenses. For example, the boys are playing football, but I say it as the boy is play football. So what we can say here is that in Bahasa Melayu, there is no such thing as tenses. I realized this during my diploma, actually, during my linguistic subject, where our lecturer told us that every country has their own grammar structure. So in Bahasa Melayu, there is no such thing as tenses. And how I overcome this problem is by consistent practices. So I remember I received private tuition with my teacher, Mrs. Cuthbert, and she did exercises with me every single day. And from there, more excellent in tenses. Moving on to syntactical errors. So the problems that I face for syntactical errors is that I tend to change the Bahasa Melayu sentence structure into English. So that's why the sentence structure doesn't is grammatically wrong. I remember at that time, Ms. Cuthbert asked me to share my what I did during the weekdays, and I answered her. My grandma called. She promised she will pick me at airport. So yep, you understand what I'm saying, because how somehow the message is there, but the grammar, the sentence structure is grammatically wrong. So, how I overcome this problem is by a, a daily communication, by communicating with my friends. So during that 3 years, I communicate with in English every single day. So from there, I somehow learned on how to the correct way the sentence structure is, and why it is wrong, why it is right, and what not. So yep, practice make perfect. Okay, lastly would be during my stay in the UK, I tend to pronounce the as there as there. So from the placement of my tongue, you can clearly tell that I pronounce it wrong, because different placement of the tongue, different sound is produced. So at that time, I remember whenever I say my teacher will come to me and correct me. And so I guess yes, from there I overcome the problem due to the fact that as I said, consistent practices. I communicate with my friends every day, and also my teacher keep on correcting me. And then I remember this one scenario that I want to share. When I was in Malaysia, it was way back, it was during my high school years. I went to a shop and I wanted to buy thinner. So I went to the uncle. I'm like, uncle, I want to buy thinner. Is there thinner? And it's like, I remembered he asked me to repeat myself a few times, and it's like, at the back, at the back. So from there, you can clearly see that he actually violated the quality of Maxim, because he was unsure of what I was saying, but he still answered, but wrongly. So I remember I went to the back and I'm like, the thinner was nowhere to be found. I mean, and I went back to him, and it's like, and I'm like, uncle, I'm sorry, but I cannot find a thinner. And it's like, darling, can you describe to me, what do you mean by thinner? What do you want to use it for? And I'm like, oh, thinner, to paint my room. It's not thinner, darling, it's thinner. Thinner. So from there, I detect that in Bahasa Melayu, the sound the doesn't exist. That's why the is usually misplaced as the in Bahasa Melayu. So even it's a bit half of a hassle when I go to the restaurant to order my food, because sometimes since I'm used to pronouncing it in the correct way, usually the waiter doesn't understand what I'm saying. They want me to repeat myself, or maybe when I actually say it the way Malaysians say it, then they understand. So that is all from me. Thank you for listening.